I distinctly remember it being a Saturday night in November of 2022. And I was around some friends and we were having some wine and stuff. And I look at Twitter. Elon tweets something like that out. And I knew right away what was actually happening.
This is Katie Harbath. For a decade, she worked at Facebook. Her job there was public policy director for global elections, which means she understands the dilemma that Twitter, YouTube, every other social media site faced on January 6th. It also means she was at Facebook when they banned Donald Trump. Facebook had removed Trump's posts before, like when he claimed that COVID was, quote, less lethal than the flu. But January 6th was different. That's because, after losing the election, he kept saying it had been stolen, that he was the rightful winner. And then, he encouraged his followers, in vague terms, to get in the way of certifying the election by showing up at the Capitol. Katie remembers it was a tough decision. Suddenly, they were having these unprecedented conversations about truth, democracy, and tech's role in all of that. Elon Musk had a different approach. He tweeted a poll, quote, reinstate former President Trump, and a Latin phrase, vox populi, vox dei, the voice of the people is the voice of the gods. 15 million people voted. Yes is won. And then?
The Trump account was back by the next Sunday afternoon.
Facebook, on the other hand, was so anxious about what to do with Trump, they took their decision to an oversight board. Elon, he just tweeted it.
For me, it was just like, it was another indication of just, frankly, how reckless he is around this and the naivete that I felt like he had around trust and safety and content moderation and what it means to actually have a healthy town square.
Elon kept going. He didn't just bring back Trump's Twitter. He brought back a live streamer who goes by Baked Alaska, who'd been banned for anti-Semitism, Kanye West, also anti-Semitism, Nick Fuentes, who, among a litany of other things, was being anti-Semitic.
I think Elon has this ethos, like, I can just do better. Like, this isn't that hard. Like, I can figure this out.
When he bought Twitter, when he announced he was going to take Twitter and make it a free speech platform, what did you think when you heard that?
That he doesn't know what the heck he's getting into and what that actually means.
I'm Max Chafkin. This is Citizen Elon. On episode 1, we looked at what radicalized Elon Musk and led him to buy Twitter. Today, why that matters and how it's affecting the election. The early days of Twitter, which Elon later renamed X, were crazy. He tried to back out of the purchase, then a judge forced him to buy it, then he took over. He immediately fired a huge chunk of the staff, which led to chaos and lawsuits. He was leaking documents about his own company. He named his own leak the Twitter Files.
How and what he did to purchase Twitter is pretty astounding here.
Joan Donovan is a journalism professor at BU. We talked to her last episode.
He was able to bring about billions of dollars in loans that are now troubling major banks in order to overpay for something that he would never be able to recoup his losses on. That's not smart. For Musk, Twitter really represented the beating heart of centrist media and the mainstream media in general.
In other words, this was not business as usual, and he kept making decisions that sent the company's value plummeting. He started charging for the blue check, which used to mean you were verified, like you are who you say you are. The only people who had them were journalists, politicians, and celebrities. Now you can just buy one. Which, whatever, right? It seemed elitist in the first place. But the difference between, say, Joe Biden and someone who says he's Joe Biden, it really does matter.
And so you saw this massive exodus of high-value users, along with also the advertisers. Right at the beginning of his purchase, his attitude was, goodbye. And then, of course, he brought back in all of the folks that had been removed previously.
Many of whom paid to be verified, paid for check marks. Suddenly, trending accounts had names like End Wokeness, Cat Turd, and also accounts belonging to far-right influencers like Mike Cernovich and Glenn Greenwald. And Elon, he was right there with them, liking, retweeting, commenting on those same accounts. And anyway, the most important influencer on the right, Donald Trump, he wanted nothing to do with Elon Musk. Maybe because he'd built his own free speech platform and wanted his followers to use that one instead.
And go out, by the way, while I'm here and sign up now for Truth Social. It's hot as a pistol, and you stop left-wing censorship and restore free speech in America.
This is from a rally in 2022. Basically, Trump saying he gets to wear the free speech crown. He's the guy bringing a public square back to the web.
I tell you what, Elon is not going to buy Twitter. Nah, he's a bullshit artist. He's got himself a mess, but he's not going to be buying it. He's not going to be buying it. Sign up for Truth. We love the truth.
For almost a year after Elon let him back on Twitter, Trump's account was silent. But then, August 25th, 2023, Trump makes his comeback. It's a photo of his mugshot. Elon knows Trump tweeting again is very good for business. He retweets it, quote, "next level."
You recently met with Donald Trump in Florida. What did you guys talk about?
I was at a dinner. I was at a breakfast at a friend's place, and Donald Trump came by. That's it.
8 months later, Elon interviewed by Don Lemon.
So you didn't go there to meet him?
No, I went to a friend of mine's house and it said Donald Trump's coming by for breakfast. Is that just so you know? Like, okay, fine.
By the way, at this point, Trump was way behind Biden in the money race, which Elon had plenty of. Now, Trump needed Elon too. Here's the thing. Elon may be rich, but he's also cheap. And nobody in Washington was expecting him to give money to anyone, really.
And that's what really matters to Republicans in Washington.
Josh Green, my colleague at Bloomberg Businessweek, he covers politics.
If you're a big capitalist, are you willing to stroke a big check? To Republicans, and Elon never was. Elon Musk talks a big game, but he's never going to stroke a check. And therefore, nobody really cared about him.
Good afternoon.
Then, everything changed.
Last night, I spoke with Donald Trump. I'm sincerely grateful that he's doing well and recovering. An assassination attempt is contrary to everything we stand for as a nation, everything.
Elon experienced the attempt on Donald Trump's life pretty much like the rest of us, online. He saw the photos on social media, Trump at the rally, Trump bleeding, Trump's fist in the air, shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." 30 minutes later, Elon tweets, quote, "I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery." Soon after, Elon announces he's creating his own super PAC for Trump, meaning a great big check. Just like that, Elon's a player in Washington, D.C.
And you know, Elon, I love Elon Musk. Do we love him? I love him. Elon endorsed me the other day, and I didn't even know this. He didn't even tell me about it. But he gives me $45 million a month. A month. Not 45 million. Gives me 45 million a month. And I talked to him just a little while ago to say I was coming here, how you doing? And he didn't even mention it. He didn't mention. I mean, other guys, they give you $2 and you got to take them to lunch. You got to wine them, dine them.
That's from a Trump rally in July. And if you think this feels like a departure from...
Nah, he's a bullshit artist.
Well, buckle up. To start, Elon's tweets, they've gone from, "I fully endorse Trump," to saying that there won't be an America if Trump loses, to saying that humanity will never reach the stars without having a President Donald Trump a second time. Then there was Elon's 2-hour live interview of Trump on X.
You have definitely got a fertile mind.
Well, see, it's kind of you to say.
We can talk about cuddles and rockets, so many things.
Then the ads paid for by Elon's PAC.
Trump is the American badass who'll stop this nonsense.
When Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, where the Summers assassination attempt happened, Elon went there too. He jumped up and down like a kid in a bouncy castle and then delivered this kind of halting speech with sentences like,
"Fight, fight, fight!"
and
"Blood coming down the face."
2 days later, he offered actual payouts to anyone willing to refer potential voters in swing states. At first, he said he'd pay $47 because Trump would be the 47th president. Then he upped it to $100. There was no good reason for that. It's just a bigger number. And then,
I have a surprise for you, which is that we're going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election.
What Elon's doing here, it's probably illegal. The government bans vote buying, including by way of lottery. But for Elon, that's sort of the point.
You know, one of the challenges we're having is like, well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. You know, not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly.
It's easy to see this as a gimmick or a marketing stunt. But by now, the money that Elon is throwing around is starting to add up. Actually, in every way, these two guys, who kind of hated each other before, are now on the same team.
I mean, to me, the reason that I always thought that Elon and Trump would never get together, and to be clear, I was very wrong about this, was that they're both these kind of alpha male narcissists who always want all the attention to be about them.
Josh Green again.
It just didn't seem like it could happen, and yet it has. I think the two of them kind of vibe off each other in the sense that they both feel persecuted by mainstream media and the popular culture. They're mad. They're not going to take it anymore. They're going to gleefully attack their enemies.
Suddenly, Elon, who, just to remind you, world's richest man, 200 million Twitter followers, becomes one of the most important political actors, a guy who actually might swing an election.
You have donors that just want to give money. They care about a cause. They will cut the check.
Matt Oskowski is a political marketer. He worked on the last two Trump campaigns.
They will give it to a group or a cause they support, and what happens to the money kind of becomes irrelevant to them because they supported the cause. I would say Elon looks to be on the opposite side of the spectrum, where he's giving means, but he's also activist, where he's actually involved with how the money is spent and it's being deployed.
What Matt's good at is using data, especially to reach people on the internet. Elon is, of course, on Matt's radar. His world runs on campaign contributions, specifically the big checks. As of the middle of October, Elon's given $132 million, most of it to his America PAC. He's undeniably one of the biggest donors.
It seems like America PAC is largely focused on the political operation. Canvassing, door knocking, phone calls, phone baking, those types of things, GOTV and turnout.
GOTV, that's get out the vote.
Usually the PAC model is use soft dollars to raise a bunch of big checks to be able to buy media. We're going to buy TV, we're going to buy digital ads and buy mail and things like that. But this is almost like a quasi-campaign outside of the campaign.
Elon micromanages. He's proud of it, so that's how he's running his PAC. At the start, he hired a few hundred canvassers, folks who go door to door trying to convince regular people to vote for their candidate. Then something happened that annoyed Elon, so he fired a bunch of them. Then he brought on an entirely new team and fired a bunch of them too. Still, it seems to be working. Matt says most canvassing operations take years to assemble. Elon built one in just a few months. His specific target? Younger men in swing states. Now he's got an office set up in Pennsylvania, the swing state he said he's specifically focusing his attention on. He's even sort of stumping, traveling from town to town, giving talks to voters. By the way, whatever his politics were before, Elon's politics right now largely mirror Trump's. Across the board. Immigration, gender, voter rights, the environment. In those ways, and so many others, he's fallen in line. Let's step back for a second and answer the question at the heart of this. Why? Why is Elon, who has 6 companies and at least 12 kids, spending all of this time and money on Trump? What does he stand to gain? Elon's a defense contractor. SpaceX, his rocket company, They already have huge contracts with the U.S. government. Elon wants more. Specifically, he's gunning for NASA to spend tens of billions of dollars on his Mars colony.
Elon, get those rocket ships going because we want to reach Mars before the end of my term. We want to do it. And we want to have also great military protection in space because that's where it's going to be at.
Right now, the government's likely to spread the work out across a bunch of different defense contractors. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. But Trump could decide to throw a bunch of business to SpaceX instead. Also, SpaceX has this side business. It's called Starlink. Elon's long wanted the government to pay Starlink to provide internet to rural areas, to get subsidies that the government already has, but to direct them to him. Starlink has struck out so far. But under another Trump presidency, maybe it would have more of a chance. Second, Tesla's trying to develop these autonomous cars, driverless robotaxis. Trump could help get those approved, and potentially block Tesla's Chinese competitors from offering their robotaxis in the U.S.
I will stop Chinese and other countries produced automobile and autonomous vehicles. Do you like autonomous? Does anybody like an autonomous vehicle?
Third, Trump could give Elon a job, and not just any job.
I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say...
During the Twitter Spaces interview and on the stump, Trump said Elon will be in charge of streamlining the government, which, among other things, means he'll be the one to decide which government programs get cut and which stay. I don't think Elon wants another job, but there are lots of federal agencies that are investigating him right now. And the simplest way to resist some of these investigations would probably just be to defund those agencies. In short, it'd be the most powerful guy in the world, in the pocket of the richest guy in the world. I can't express enough what a big deal that'd be.
You're fucked, dude.
I'm fucked. If he loses, I'm fucked.
It does seem that way. You can't just be like,
I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
Because it's not like you can say, well, yeah, I maxed out to him, but, I get...
I have no plausible deniability.
No.
This is from an interview Elon did with Tucker Carlson in October. It made me think, maybe Elon's got no choice now that he's backed Trump. Maybe he's afraid that if Kamala Harris wins, she would have him punished. At the same time, I'm skeptical. For starters, nobody's talking about retribution or about Elon's rightful place in jail. I think maybe he's trying to distract folks from what Trump's actually saying and raise himself up as a MAGA martyr. But no matter what, if Trump loses the election, so does Elon. We've been talking a lot about traditional politics, money, speeches, canvassing, ads. But there's another way Elon's helped Trump that I'd argue is a lot more important. I keep thinking about something Joan said about the aftermath of Elon buying Twitter. A bunch of users leaving the platform, advertisers cutting ties.
His attitude was, goodbye. And then, of course, he brought back in all of the folks that had been removed previously.
The thing is, just because Elon's era of Twitter is less successful in business terms, doesn't mean it's not still powerful or dangerous.
We're not going to code it as a campaign contribution to Trump, but it certainly was. He understood, perhaps more than most, that communication tools are weapons of war. And he has now the largest psychological weapon that the world may have ever known. You can really change how an entire society sees itself.
Time and again, Twitter has proven to be a massively effective tool of communication and organization. Just because advertisers don't want any part of it, or because there are fewer people tweeting, doesn't mean it's not still happening. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter.
In my world, I have to do what I call doomscaping. I have to think about every possible outcome there is, including Musk pulling a Trump. This is the type of guy who, if he starts to feel as if something has gone wrong, imagine if he believes the 2024 election is rigged, he could start a civil war. And, we're loading up the flamethrowers. We're going Mad Max style to the Capitol.
Since leaving Facebook, Katie Harbath told me she's been a consultant, basically advising tech companies on how to avoid accidentally promoting disinformation or political violence.
One of the scenarios that we've been thinking through is what if somebody has this video, part AI generated, of something nefarious is happening at a polling place, whether it's around the counting of votes or something like that. He tweets something.
One example, at the last presidential debate, Trump made a debunked claim about Haitians eating people's pets. And just before the debate, Elon had tweeted out the same thing to his 200 million followers.
We saw with the Haitian immigrants eating dogs in Ohio, it doesn't take very long for that to get amplified by others. The thing I am most worried about, and I think is most important, is us protecting trust in the actual process of conducting elections. And people trusting that their vote counted and that those votes were counted fairly, even if they disagree with the outcome.
This isn't some theoretical issue. It's a thing that's already happened, that is happening now in some of the most closely contested precincts in America. Neil Makija chairs the Board of Elections in Montgomery County, in Pennsylvania. It's not far from Philadelphia. Neil says the most important message he wants out there, the thing he wishes more people understood and believed,
people don't realize how safe, how secure our elections actually are.
But the amount of mis- and disinformation, it's hard to keep up with. Back in 2021, right after the attacks on the Capitol, the local Democratic Party committee received a letter from somebody complaining the election had been stolen. The letter made it clear something bad was going to happen. Then, 2 weeks later, 3 shots were fired through a window at the party's office, just across the street from where Neil works today.
Thankfully, no one was in the office when the shots were fired into it, but it showed us that disinformation can lead to violence. You may have clear moments like that, essentially a redux of January 6th where people try to disrupt the process, and that could be at the polling places, it could be at the transition of power. I think
Neil seemed nervous throughout our call. That popping sound in the background, it was him clicking his pen over and over, faster and faster.
I think people who perpetuated the lies certainly bear responsibility if they should have known better. And I think certainly Elon Musk should know better.
As you try to do your job, what are you most worried about?
You're asking these great questions. I'm just kidding.
Tell me why you laughed there.
Because I'm like, you're just like, if I thought about what I'm worried about all day, I would not be able to do this job.
Neil's one of the most polished people I spoke with for this show, which makes sense. His job is to instill calm, to remind folks that voting is safe. What that also means is he's got the most to lose. It's easy, in the heat of a campaign, to miss the forest for the trees. But of course, none of this ends on November 5th. If anything, November 5th is when it begins. Elon and Trump are ready to either overhaul the U.S. government or to say the election was stolen, that America as we know it is dead. And Elon pulling back further and further on content moderation, it's his call to arms. He's gathering the troops. For what? We won't know until November 5th. That's next time. Citizen Elon is produced by Lena Masitzis. Rehan Harmansi is our senior editor. Blake Maples handles engineering, and William Elstrom fact-checking. Brendan Francis Newnham is our executive producer. Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. Big thanks to the Elon Inc. crew: David Papadopoulos, Naomi Shavin, Magnus Henriksen, Stacey Wong. Listen every Tuesday for breaking Elon news. And thanks to our Bloomberg colleagues, David Fox, Julia Press, Dana Hull, Sarah Fryer, Kurt Wagner, Mark Millian, Becca Greenfield, Margaret Sutherland, Allison Mobley, Jackie Kessler, Ariel Brown, Chris Nasenzo, and Albert Hicks. An extra big thanks to Brad Stone, editor of Businessweek, and Katie Boyce, executive editor of Bloomberg Digital, for their unflagging support. We'll see you after the election for part 3 of Citizen Elon. I'm Max Chafkin. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. Thanks again.